When rockets first left Earth, they were essentially giant metal fireworks strapped to astronauts. It worked, but barely. The problem is chemical fuel. It burns hot, fast, and then you're stuck coasting like a stranded Uber driver in space. By the 2040s, we'll likely see the next leap: nuclear-powered spacecraft. Instead of hauling oceans of fuel, these ships carry compact nuclear reactors that heat propellant or generate electricity to drive ion thrusters. Translation: instead of a sprint that leaves you breathless, it's like tapping into an endless cosmic treadmill with afterburners. Nuclear thermal propulsion, NTP, could cut a Mars trip from 9 soul-crushing months to just 3 or 4. Nuclear electric propulsion, NEP, is slower but can run for years, making outer planet missions actually feasible instead of "good luck, see you in a century." Both concepts are already on NASA and DARPA drawing boards, and prototypes may be tested before 2035. Some even plan to recycle waste heat into onboard life support, basically turning your ship into a floating nuclear spa. But here's the rub: politics hates the word nuclear. Putting reactors on rockets is the PR equivalent of serving uranium at a potluck. Still, if humanity is serious about Mars, Jupiter, or even interstellar probes, we'll need to embrace a little radioactive flair. So the real question isn't if we build them, but how far we'll dare to ride the nuclear lightning. And that leads us to an even weirder plan. What if instead of reactors, we just start chipping away at actual asteroids? Earth has one tiny flaw: we're running out of the good stuff. Platinum, rare earth metals, nickel. Our smartphones, solar panels, and rocket parts all demand materials that are getting scarcer down here. But floating just a few million kilometers away are giant space rocks absolutely stuffed with those same metals. Some asteroids have more platinum in them than has ever been mined in all of human history. Translation: one well-chosen asteroid could make Jeff Bezos look like the guy selling bootleg DVDs in a Walmart parking lot. The plan sounds insane, but isn't. Send robotic prospectors to latch onto asteroids, drill, scoop, or melt down chunks, and process the materials in space. Water becomes rocket fuel. Metals become building blocks for orbital stations. And the leftovers? Shove them into automated cargo pods and let them drop back toward Earth, hopefully landing somewhere other than your enemy's backyard. NASA, China, and several private companies have already drafted designs for mining craft. The real choke point isn't technology, it's economics. Right now, dragging a $1 trillion rock into orbit costs more than the rock is worth. But as launch costs plummet thanks to reusable rockets, the math starts to look less like science fiction and more like a very risky startup pitch. Future miners might even use AI-controlled asteroid tugs to slowly nudge resources into Earth's orbit. So maybe the future stock market isn't on Wall Street, it's in the asteroid belt. But while we argue over who gets dibs on the space gold rush, another mission is aiming for something a little more dramatic: putting actual human boots on Mars. If the moon was humanity's first awkward date with space, Mars is the proposal. Getting there isn't just about planting a flag, it's about proving we can survive on a planet that wants us dead in 100 different ways. Mars is far, cold, and has an atmosphere thinner than hotel toilet paper. Step outside without a suit and your blood literally boils while you suffocate. Romantic, right? So why bother? Because Mars is the only planet in the solar system with even a halfway decent chance at being colonized. It has ice for water, carbon dioxide we can turn into oxygen, and just enough gravity to keep our bones from turning into space chalk. NASA's roadmap points to the late 2030s for a crewed landing. SpaceX insists Starship will pull it off sooner, but Elon time runs on its own calendar. Even China is gunning for the red planet in the 2030s to 40s. The hardest part isn't getting there, it's staying there. Astronauts will face radiation doses equal to chain-smoking X-ray machines, dust storms that can bury solar panels, and a supply chain that takes months to deliver a missing wrench. Some plans even include using Martian soil to 3D print shelters, which is basically Minecraft survival mode, but with real consequences. But the payoff is colossal. Humanity becomes a multi-planet species. Imagine future history books. In 2042, humans stood on Mars. They immediately fell down because Mars's gravity is only a third of Earth's. And yet, even that giant leap might look modest compared to what comes next, because before Mars becomes a home, the moon might beat it to the punch. The moon is the solar system's equivalent of a fixer-upper right next door. It's barren, dusty, and its day-night cycle is 29 Earth days long, which means 2 weeks of non-stop sunlight, followed by 2 weeks of soul-crushing darkness. Still, compared to Mars, the moon is practically a luxury condo. It's only 3 days away by rocket, making resupply, rescue, and pizza delivery infinitely easier. That's why almost every space agency has circled the same idea: a permanent lunar base. NASA's Artemis program aims to land astronauts at the lunar South Pole before 2030, targeting regions where water ice hides in shadowed craters. That ice is the jackpot. It can be split into oxygen for breathing and hydrogen for rocket fuel. The European Space Agency has pitched a moon village, essentially a multinational science outpost, while China and Russia have announced their own lunar research station plans for the 2030s. Private companies? They're already sketching lunar mining rigs and habitats that look like IKEA went wild with concrete printers. But life on the moon won't be cozy. Astronauts will need to bunker against radiation, micrometeorite rain, and dust so clingy it makes glitter look polite. Power stations will need to run through endless nights, and bases might end up buried under regolith for shielding. Some proposals even include inflatable lava tube habitats, because apparently we're not satisfied until we're living in space caves. Still, once a base is up and running, the moon becomes a fuel depot, a science hub, and humanity's training ground for Mars. It's the cosmic equivalent of practicing swimming in the shallow end before diving into the abyss. So if the moon is our cosmic test drive, what happens when humanity finally decides to go full throttle with space tourism? For decades, space was the ultimate gated community, only governments allowed. That's changing fast. With the International Space Station scheduled for retirement around 2030, private companies are racing to fill the orbital vacuum. Axiom Space, Blue Origin, SpaceX, and Sierra Space are all sketching out commercial stations that look less like sterile labs and more like orbital Airbnbs. Think panoramic windows, inflatable modules, and maybe even a space bar where your drink floats away if you look at it wrong. The business model is simple: research labs by day, orbital hotels by night. Pharmaceutical companies want to exploit microgravity to grow better drugs and crystals. Tech companies want to test manufacturing in weightlessness. And the ultra-rich? They just want bragging rights. Oh, you went to Bali? Cute. I went to orbit. Ticket prices are still insane, but as rockets get cheaper and stations multiply, space tourism will become less of a billionaire boys club and more like, well, still rich people, but not obscenely rich people. Of course, living in orbit isn't exactly spa week. You'll still be strapped into a tin can whizzing around Earth at 28,000 kilometers per hour, recycling your own sweat into drinking water and pretending it's just like camping. Future stations might even offer Earthrise suites, so you can watch the planet spin below while trying not to lose your lunch. But that won't stop humanity. Once orbit is crowded with private stations, tourism, and maybe even zero-gravity sporting events, we'll have truly crossed the line. Space is no longer science fiction. It's business, pleasure, and a little cosmic chaos rolled into one. Well, congratulations! You just survived humanity's sci-fi fever dream, minus the popcorn. Drop a comment and tell me which of these space plans you think actually happens, and which one ends with us trending on #EpicFail. And hey, smash that like button and subscribe to CosmoBinge. Because if humanity's going to do dumb things in space, someone has to narrate the blooper reel.